Now I can see it leaking. Yeah. What is up, everybody? This is Brian with the Mustard and Mayo, and today is just going to be a quick little video on diagnosing the what I have just confirmed is the radiator in my 2015 BMW M3 has sprung a leak. It looks like maybe an impact or something, a rock got up in there. But this car also has over 155,000 miles, so it could just be this thing was time. So let me kind of show you what's going on. So we've already got it to this point where we've got the plastics off, the braces off, the charge cooler pipe is off. Those things take about maybe 5 minutes, if that, to repair. I went ahead and to remove. I went ahead and also removed this out of the way a little bit so it's easier to kind of get moved around because I was wanting to check for leaks and everything around there. But what was happening is I was driving this car and all of a sudden it just started springing a leak. And even though the car is not on, there's no pressure in the system. It's been pouring out coolant ever since. So I got it limped back home. I thought for a chance it could actually be the water pump since I was in there not too long ago working on those belts. But everything right there is dry. Then I thought it could be possibly one of the many coolers that are up under here because there's actually one on each side of the bumper here. But if we look up underneath of the car, we can actually see right now it is definitely coming from the radiator. You can actually see I've wiped this down and tried to dry it off, but you can just see, maybe it's a little easier at a different angle, but just how wet it is through here. And right now I've also got the car lifted up, so it's kind of angling down here to the driver's side. You can definitely just see how much coolant's coming out of that radiator. Again, I thought it was going to be this oil cooler that's underneath of here. Unsure if this is just oil in here. I think this is just oil in here, but I thought that maybe there was coolant here. Since these are bad for getting kind of damaged underneath of the car, especially with this one being lowered, as you can see. But as you can actually see from looking at it, the underside of this is actually in really good shape, minus the fact that it's soaking wet with coolant now. The top side of it is what's actually kind of gross. So my theory is that you can just kind of see just how crudded up the top side of this thing is. And I'm guessing that's just been from lots of debris making its way up into the inside of the bumper area here, and I guess one too many things finally impacted the radiator, but you can also see where it's kind of pressed up against this oil cooler. So I'm more than likely going to be replacing this as well as the radiator. If I can actually try to get the camera to go where it's supposed to be, you can see from the top side as well. I'm just probably not going to get this to work, but we'll try it out. So you just can't really get it to focus, but it's right down in there. It's a little easier if you see it through the fans. But yeah, you can definitely verify that it is the radiator coming from back behind there. And it is not the coolant lines or any one of these radiator hoses that goes around. So not too hard of a repair. I've never done one on this car before. But from looking at it from the underneath, it looks like I could probably drop it out from the bottom here. I just need to figure out what's going on with some of these brackets. Popping the hoses off. I'm sure I got to have this fan off and everything there. So we'll go ahead and get to work and figure out what we can do. While I'm underneath of here, I am going to go ahead and just point out, of course I pointed out just how disgusting all this stuff is here, but to get to this point, it's actually pretty easy. There's a lot of 10 mil, or I think they're 8 millimeter head screws that hold some of the plastic stuff like this to the underside of the car. You can see that one's not all the way completely removed. There's also two 13 millimeter bolts. You can actually see one here and then one on the driver's side. Those hold the oil cooler down. And now what's funny is I've seen from everybody, you do not have to remove the front bumper if you did want to clean out all the junk in here that had accrued from mine. I'll try to stick a photo in here of how dirty it was before I at least wiped it down here. But it looks like if you were to just remove the plastics from underneath of here, which take no time at all, you can see there's some of the plastics back there on the floor. There's also this little bracket right here. Oh yeah, this is a fairly decent example of how disgusting the underside of that radiator was, and probably why we got too much pressure under there and pushed the fin out and cracked the radiator. But there are three, I think they're T25 head torque screws that are holding that on. You can see them basically right in here in this little box right there. So those 3 or 4 bolts right there are basically what held on the plastics, as well as the bolts here for the oil cooler. So that way you can drop those down, get access to all the stuff in here. And then, yeah, again, I should just be able to drop this out the bottom, ideally. All right, time to check in with you guys. I have been doing some research to try to figure out the correct way to get this radiator fan and that radiator out. And after tons of reading and YouTube watching and everything, maybe I just couldn't find the right video, but I cannot find a perfect example of how to get all this stuff out. So we're going to kind of figure this out together. But where we're at right now is I've got everything off the bottom that I could at the moment from the last video. And from looking at it, it just felt like it was going to be a heck of a lot easier if this bracket would come out. This is the bracket that goes between the two hood latches and across the all the cooling system. And so far, that's made a huge difference on getting access to things. I also have removed this, I believe, is the main harness. It's massive, so I don't know if it's actually for this or not, but this looks to be the harness for the fan assembly. You can see basically right there where that plug was. Now, don't do like I did and break one of these plastic clips, but I guess, you know, when you get some age on these, it's going to happen. But these are a squeeze type clip, so don't put too much pressure on there and that should pop off. The fan assembly, so there is a small bracket. I think it's this one, maybe. Yeah, so this bracket right here, if you see these square little pegs right here, peg holes, that was also on top before I took the metal bracket off. And you can actually see where those square pegs go. Most of these screws are Torx. The smallest ones where that plastic bracket was were T25s. But you can also see that I've been using T40s for the big ones. Some of them were 13 millimeters, like this one here. Actually, this belongs over here with these. But there was like T25s and T30s in there as well. Fairly easy to get access to. And if anything, you know, kudos to BMW. They really give you the perfect angles. There's nothing in the way you got to pull out of the way. Really easy to get to. As you can see, here's the brackets for the hood latches. And again, super smart with how these are designed. I thought these were going to be kind of a pain in the butt and I was going to have to remove some cabling or something like that. But no, these things actually will slide out and out of this bracket and just hang here loose. So you don't even have to disconnect this stuff. You can see there's one of the cables for it right there. So pretty impressed with how that works, honestly. There's the wire, if you're ever needing it. There's the wire for the hood open thing. So now that we're here, I figured I would go ahead and stop because I am shocked by what I'm seeing in here. I guess I shouldn't be shocked, but I am nonetheless, and I'll see if I can get it on video. So this right here is the main radiator. This right here is the AC condenser, and then you can see this other one right up in here. That is the charge air cooler, one of the main intercoolers, heat exchanger, whatever you want to call it, for the engine. That's the most common one that has write-ups on it for how to get it out. And I believe most people are taking off the front bumper to get to it. I'm not necessarily messing around with that today, but I do just want to point out where it is. But if I look, you know, you can kind of see between the charge air cooler and the condenser, decent sized gap. And there's definitely some, you know, some bugs and some, you know, leaves and whatnot in there. But holy crap, when I look between the AC condenser and the radiator, this is terrible. So let me see if I can get this. Oh yeah, there we go. So that's about as good as it's going to get. You can really kind of see what's going in there from this angle. Yeah, there we go. There we go. So there was, I mean, I haven't done anything as far as cleaning this out, but there is just a ridiculous, disgusting amount of leaves and trash. And it's almost halfway up the radiator. Way down there in the bottom is where we're showing to have the radiator leak. Good Lord, it's just impossible to get these things to focus. But, yeah, really gross. So even if you're not maybe going to be replacing these parts, it might not be a bad idea just to pull this bracket off and, I don't know, put some air down in there, get a pressure washer down in there, or a vacuum cleaner or something, and just try to get up all of that trash if you're anything like me. So this might help. I threw a light down underneath, and, you know, there's the gap between that charge air cooler and the AC condenser. And again, there is the gap between, yeah, it's a little bit more telling. There's the gap between the radiator and the AC condenser. You can just see how much little light is passing through, and there's just, you know, all kinds of just trash up in there. So yeah, pretty gross. Got a feeling that's part of the reason why this radiator failed. Either something impacted it, or with all that stuff in there, it's probably just not getting enough airflow. But either way, we're going to try to continue to move on and figure out how to get this thing out the rest of the way. All right, the radiator is out. For those that are curious, this is what the radiator looks like in an M3, F80, F82. So this is what I was trying to get on video, and a lot of this has gotten knocked out, but just look at how much junk is on here. The failure point for the radiator is actually right down here. You can really see this grouping of kind of dirt and grime and all that kind of stuff that's gotten caught in there. Yeah, you can actually see it's even pouring out right here. Ooh, yeah. So this is what I was worried about. So there was definitely some sort of debris that got into the engine bay, I think, because not only did it split this, but I think it was still leaking from over there too, honestly. But as I was getting this out, I also noticed that a couple of the fan blades, you can see right there on the top, are broken. So there's actually supposed to be a, you can see the fan spins all the way around. I could probably pull this thing out, actually. Let's see if we can. Well, I'll get it here in a second. But yeah, you can definitely see there's broken fan blades, or who knows what else got up in there and caused some damage. But to get the radiator out, definitely getting it out from the top is the right way to go. Now that you can see this off, there are two quick disconnect, whatever you want to call them, radiator hoses. Those come off fairly easily. This one was a little bit stuck on this side, but I think it's just because it's, you know, never been probably removed. But this little hose right here was probably the biggest pain in the butt, just because where it was and it being underneath of this, trying to reach down in between the fan and the condenser and the radiator itself and trying to get down in there was kind of a pain in the ass. Thankfully, with the fan loose up top, and I meant to mention this earlier, but there is one screw that holds, actually I'll just show you. It's a mess under here. But there is one screw that holds, this is the auxiliary water pump, and there's a screw that kind of holds it to the fan up in here. And once you just undo that screw, which is like another T25 or something, this becomes loose. And then that way the fan and everything can kind of move around. But once I got that moved around, I actually had better luck pushing the radiator from underneath. There is this hose right here. This is the one that I was telling you was kind of a pain in the butt. Once I was able to kind of free this up from where it was kind of stuck up under things and try to just get it to wiggle loose, I was able to get the radiator to push up far enough out of the slot, if you will, where I could actually hold it basically right here about halfway out, and then basically get to that last little clip and then pop that hose off, and then boom, it's right there. So definitely have to get a new radiator. I'm gonna have to get a new fan assembly as well, for sure, and still probably going to replace that oil cooler. So unfortunately, this is going to be a fairly expensive job. This is about $500, give or take. The fan assembly is about $500. Actually, I haven't priced this. The oil cooler on the bottom is about $500. This I haven't priced, but who knows, maybe I can get this used or something like that, as long as it's in good shape. So that's how you get it out. I don't know if this video is helpful for anybody, but it can definitely be done. So once I get it all put back together, I'll probably have a separate video for that, just in case there's anything that I've learned. Obviously, coming out, things are a little bit jerkier, so I have to be a lot more careful going in with the new parts. So you just got to be more delicate.